It all started with a simple desire. I wanted to buy a used bicycle. I turned to Craigslist, that virtual marketplace where you can find just about anything. Little did I know that this seemingly innocent search would lead to a Craigslist horror story that still sends shivers down my spine. I found a listing for a vintage road bike that looked perfect. The seller, who went by the name Max, described the bike as in excellent condition and priced it at a fraction of its actual worth. It seemed too good to be true, but I couldn't resist the allure of a great deal. Max and I exchanged a few messages, and he insisted on meeting in person. He proposed a rendezvous at a secluded park on the outskirts of town. It struck me as an odd choice, but I was eager to snag the bike, so I agreed to the meeting. The day arrived, and I drove to the park with a mix of excitement and nervousness. It was a sunny afternoon, but there was an eerie stillness in the air. I arrived at the agreed-upon location, a remote corner of the park where the trees loomed ominously. As I parked my car, I spotted a figure standing near a cluster of trees. It was Max, wearing a hooded jacket that obscured most of his face. He held the vintage bike, propped up against a tree. I approached cautiously, my heart pounding. Max greeted me with a curt nod, and we exchanged a few pleasantries. But as we discussed the bike, his demeanor shifted. He became increasingly agitated, his eyes darting around as if expecting trouble. I noticed that the bike, though impressive, had a few flaws that Max hadn't mentioned. When I pointed them out, his face contorted with anger. He insisted that the bike was perfect, and that I was trying to haggle him down unfairly. My unease deepened as Max's demeanor grew more erratic. Suddenly, he grabbed the bike and began pedaling away, disappearing into the dense woods. I stood there in disbelief, my wallet in hand, and no bike to show for it. Before I could react, a group of people emerged from the shadows, surrounding me. They wore masks, grotesque faces that seemed ripped from a nightmare. Panic set in as they advanced toward me, their intentions unclear. In a rush of adrenaline, I bolted for my car, my heart pounding. The masked figures pursued me, their unnerving chant filling the air. It was a language I couldn't understand, but the sheer malevolence behind their voices sent shivers down my spine. I peeled out of the park, leaving the bizarre encounter behind. The fear and confusion that had enveloped me still lingered, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I had narrowly escaped a sinister fate. I reported the incident to the police, but with no clear leads or evidence, there was little they could do. Craigslist remained a realm of the unknown, a place where seemingly innocuous transactions could turn into nightmares. To this day, I can't explain the true nature of that Craigslist encounter. It was a harrowing experience, a stark reminder that the online world can hide horrors beyond imagination, a memory that continues to haunt my every online interaction. It all began when I was on the hunt for a new apartment. My current lease was about to expire, and I was desperate to find an affordable place in the city. That's when I stumbled upon a Craigslist ad that seemed like the answer to my prayers. The apartment was in a historic building, right in the heart of the city, and the rent was unbelievably low. The ad boasted about its spacious rooms, modern amenities, and proximity to all the best restaurants and shops. I thought I had hit the jackpot. The person behind the ad went by the name Lena. We exchanged a few emails, and she seemed pleasant enough. She explained that she was out of town and couldn't show me the apartment in person, but she was more than willing to send me pictures and videos of the place. As I browsed through the images and watched the video tour Lena had sent, I was thrilled. The apartment looked perfect, airy, well-lit, and beautifully furnished. It seemed too good to be true, but I was determined to jump on this opportunity before someone else did. Lena told me that she was eager to find a responsible tenant and didn't want to waste any time. She offered to send me the lease agreement right away so I could secure the apartment. The only catch was that she needed the first month's rent and security deposit up front, as she wouldn't be able to meet me in person for the key exchange. Red flags should have gone up, but I was so enamored with the apartment that I didn't hesitate to transfer the money to her bank account. Lena assured me that the keys would be sent to me via mail, and she would provide the tracking number. Days turned into weeks, and the keys never arrived. Lena stopped responding to my emails, and her phone went straight to voicemail. Panic set in as I realized I had fallen victim to a Craigslist scam. I had lost a substantial amount of money, and I had no place to live. I contacted the police, but they explained that tracking down online scammers was an arduous process, and there was little they could do. I was left feeling helpless and violated, knowing that I had been deceived by someone hiding behind the anonymity of the internet. In the end, I found a more legitimate apartment, but the experience left me with a lingering sense of distrust. Craigslist had been a platform where I had hoped to find my next home, but instead, it became a place of deception and betrayal, a cautionary tale that continues to haunt my online dealings to this day. It all began when I decided to purchase a vintage typewriter. My fascination with antique writing instruments led me to scour online listings, and I stumbled upon a Craigslist ad that seemed too good to be true. The typewriter was a rare find, described as in pristine condition and being sold at a fraction of its actual value. I hesitated but ultimately contacted the seller, a person named Alex. We exchanged a few messages, and Alex insisted on a face-to-face meeting. The meeting place was a dimly lit parking lot behind an abandoned warehouse, an odd choice for a typewriter exchange. My instincts told me to turn back, but my desire to own the vintage machine overrode my better judgment. As I pulled into the desolate lot, my heart began to race. I spotted a figure standing in the shadows, a hood pulled low over their face. It was Alex, and they held a box in their hands. I approached cautiously, my palms sweaty. The box contained the typewriter, just as described. I inspected it, marveling at its pristine condition. But as I reached for my wallet to pay Alex, something shifted in the air. The seller's demeanor changed, their eyes filled with an unsettling intensity. Without warning, Alex slammed the typewriter shut, trapping my fingers inside. Pain surged through my hand as I cried out in shock. I demanded to know what was happening, but Alex remained silent, their grip on the box unrelenting. Desperation set in as I struggled to free my hand. It was then that I noticed a group of shadowy figures emerging from the darkness, surrounding us. They wore masks, their faces hidden behind grotesque expressions. In a chilling, synchronized chant, they began to speak in a language I couldn't understand. The air grew colder, and the ground trembled beneath my feet. Panic overwhelmed me as I realized I was trapped in a bizarre ritual. Suddenly, Alex released the typewriter, and I stumbled back, my hand throbbing in pain. The shadowy figures closed in, their chant growing louder. I had to escape. I sprinted to my car and sped away, leaving behind the typewriter and the chilling encounter. As I drove, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had narrowly escaped a sinister fate. I reported the incident to the police, but there was little they could do. Craigslist was a vast marketplace, and tracking down the mysterious seller and their associates proved futile. To this day, I can't explain the true nature of that Craigslist encounter. It was a nightmarish ordeal, a reminder that the online world can be a breeding ground for the unknown and the terrifying. An experience that still haunts me to this day.